So here's our recap for Tuesday. We had a very different Tuesday planned for this day. We were going to go to Brussels. We already had our tickets. They were the tickets that we had paid for 2 years ago that the credit had carried through.
Yeah, we were going to take the train.
The Eurostar. About 4 hours there, have maybe 5 hours to hang out in Brussels, and then another 4 hours back.
It's a bit of a drive, or train ride for it, but it would have been fun to go somewhere, you know?
We're using past tense because we didn't go.
Yeah.
Yesterday was the hottest day recorded in Europe.
In Europe?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was 104 degrees here in London, and in Brussels it was 103. However, the heat in London, that at its peak, was only for about an hour or two. Whereas in Brussels, it was 5 hours at peak heat, which were the 5 hours that we were there for. There had also been instructions given by the Belgian government to tell people to close down early and go home. So we decided we'll just stay in London. There had been some talk about train tracks buckling under the heat, and we didn't want to risk it, because if we got stuck in Belgium, that could put other things at risk in the trip.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we could have found a Ryanair over, but there was airports melting and stuff. It would have just been a headache.
I know Luton, part of their runway melted, and there's the Royal Air Force one that melted partially too. It was a headache.
Fires too.
Yeah, there were so many wildfires yesterday that we didn't even know that was going to be a thing.
Yeah.
But there were sirens all night long. It was not a very safe day. So we decided to stay put in London. Being that it was basically an extra day in London, we had to come up with a plan. So we started off by eating breakfast again at the Mad Hatter, because it's included in our hotel.
Yeah. Oh,
and it's not just free breakfast. It's bomb, like, restaurant food.
It's good food. It's not like, you know, American.
It's not a continental breakfast. This is a full made-to-order hot breakfast with the option of, like, granola, muesli, yogurt, juice.
Fresh croissants every day.
Oh, the croissants here are just, oh my god, good. So the first thing that we did yesterday morning was we walked over and did the Millennium Bridge in the pretty direction, over to St. Paul's, where it was very pretty.
Yeah.
It was a lot less crowded.
I saw a lot more gum. The painted gum. Like 4 or 5 of them.
Oh, why didn't you take any pictures?
I did on my phone. On my camera.
Yeah.
I thought you
You
noticed
didn't point them out to me.
You were kind of determined to get across that bridge.
So it was a nice walk. Then we walked past St. Paul's, and then we went over to Postman's Park. We went over to Postman's Park because I love the movie Closer. / play Closer. You know Closer's playing while we're here?
At the movie theater?
No. Like, there's a live production.
Oh, we could do that.
No. I mean, we already have it booked, and part of what made it so magical for me is the 4 leads were just amazing. I mean, it's Jude Law, Natalie Portman, Julia Roberts, and Clive Owen.
You really like Clive Owen.
I love Clive Owen. I also love Jude Law.
It's interesting because Clive Owen's more of an action character than what I normally think of as a...
I mean, you watched Closer. You know that's not an action role.
No.
It kind of devastated him the first time he saw it. Didn't give him any warning, but it's no good. It's very raw. So we went over to Postman's Park, which is where they have the dedication to heroes that have perished saving the lives of others.
Selfless heroes.
People who dove into burning buildings, jumped into the Thames to save people drowning.
They dove into burning buildings and ran into the Thames.
I'm a little tired. Didn't sleep very well last night.
There's like, they went into a gas-filled pit to save people, and then he saved them, and then they died because the gas took them over and stuff.
It's a heavy park, but it's also very sweet. One thing that I found really interesting was that the last one put on there was from 2007.
But it had been like 80, 90 years before that.
The one previous to that was 1927.
There was some reason why they didn't want to keep putting names on there, and then they decided, why don't we just keep putting names on there?
There's one from 2007.
Yeah.
And if the year's 2022, it's been a minute since that one made it on there too.
There's some political reason why they had stopped and started and stopped.
I don't think it's a political one. I think it's a historical one.
Well, I mean, you want to keep... I don't know. We are living in history. And
there's limited space on there.
Maybe no one selfishly sacrificed themselves.
I'm pretty sure that people have. But that was lovely. The park was shady and nice and relaxing. And after Postman's Park, we decided it was time to take the boat over to Greenwich. We took the Uber boat instead of City Cruise because they've changed over on the London Pass who their provider is.
Yeah, which, I mean, for a pure tourist first time, I can see that not being the best option, just because
It doesn't have the guided things. It doesn't have the 4 set locations where they're constantly going back and forth. But as a multiple trip person, I really like the Uber boat in general.
it's faster. It's hot though, but I mean, I'm sure the other one's
It does
hot,
more
too.
stops.
Well, it
It
depends if you
zigzags
wish.
across the
They have
Thames.
multiple routes, so if you really want to, you can do the RB6, which is like the direct, like 3 stops and you're done. Which is what we did on the way back, which got back so much faster than the way out.
Yeah.
But we did the one that stopped at everyone on the way to Greenwich, and that was like you stop, you go for 5 minutes and stop, go for 3 minutes and stop.
But
And
it was free.
it takes a long. I mean, they really got the mooring down pretty quick, but it's still.
It takes time. So we arrived in Greenwich. We went straight to the Cutty Sark, where we went to the gift shop to replace a bag that we bought there on a previous trip.
Yeah, we put peaches in, and the peaches went bad, and
Yeah.
the bag now is peached.
Well, the bag's been thrown out.
Did you throw the bag out?
Well, yeah.
Oh.
But it was a really cute bag, so we got that. Then we walked over to Greenwich Market, which had approximately 6 open stalls.
Normally, last time it was massive.
I'm wondering if that was because of the heat. I honestly don't know if it was the heat or if it's just the smaller markets are dying. Greenwich isn't even a smaller market.
I think it was just the heat, honestly. I think that market normally does pretty good. And it was just the people who showed up today, like, decided to go. And, I mean, it was nice that some people went. Like, the ice cream lady, she didn't have to go, but I mean, she's selling ice cream. She's like, I wouldn't go on the hottest day.
So I got an iced chai, just to drink, and Phil got a mint chocolate chip,
Small batch.
like 1 scoop of
handmade.
gelato.
Yeah, and it was, like, they had freshly chopped and muddled the mint this morning. Like,
It was really,
just
like, I don't like
intensely
chocolate,
minty.
but it was beautiful.
Yeah. The chocolate was really high quality, too.
And afterwards, we took the bus over to the Golden Chippy. Why did we go to the Golden Chippy? Because Reddit told me that it was the #1 fish and chip shop in London, and all the articles that they had posted in the restaurant also said the same thing. So,
Yeah. Service was great.
yeah, he reminded us so much of Brett McKenzie from Flight of the Conchords.
So tiny.
Like, almost the same accent, like a British New Zealand accent. Slight frame, same facial hair, same hairstyle. It was like getting served on by Brett. So we got 2 plates of fish. We got cod and we got plaice. That came with a side of chips. It also came with a salad.
That
And
did
we
not
got a
eat.
little pot of curry sauce for the chips. And it was absolutely phenomenal.
The chips were okay. They were a lot better with the curry sauce.
The chips were delicious.
Aye.
The fish was delicious. It was the perfect level of crispy.
Mm.
Like when you picture like the crunch and the falling apart little pieces of the shell, and the fish was perfectly cooked. And we actually ate in that restaurant because it wasn't very crowded, but it was outside.
Yeah.
There were like 4 total tables, and
2 were open the whole time we were
Yeah.
there almost. Right when we were getting done, there was someone, they sat someone else. And there's a slight breeze too, so we felt more comfortable, you know. So.
it was at that point that it was 103, so it was very toasty.
Not many people wanting fried fish at 103. What I thought.
So we went back to the pier at Greenwich,
Took
caught
bus
the boat
down.
back to Westminster, which
Oh my gosh.
sucked because we were trapped outside.
Yeah.
I had this really nice bench that was in the shade on the side of the boat, and someone said, "Oh, let's go inside. It's a lot cooler."
I went in there and it felt cooler, but the problem is it feels cooler for like 30 seconds, and then it was just bad. It just wasn't cool in there.
So we sat for maybe a minute before I couldn't take the heat, and we went back outside, and someone had already taken our bench. So then we had
And
to
they
sit.
didn't even
in-
realize that we were.
Well, we grabbed our stuff. So then we sat in the sun on the entire way back, which was awful.
We got a little bit shade towards the end.
So then we took the tube over to Harrods. Harrods was an interesting experience.
There's so much stuff to see there that it's like I don't know.
It almost feels like a museum because we can't afford most things there. But we went to the food halls, which
We were full still and we were hot. And there was so much food that we didn't want to, we didn't really.
well, we didn't go there to eat. We went there to buy
I
food
know,
to
but
bring
like-
back souvenir-wise, which we got a decent chunk of them. They've got a good clearance section, and as a clearance shopper, I respect that.
I imagine they have a large volume of items.
Well, yeah, especially like a little tin of tea that says Harrods. That's a good souvenir. So we got lost, had to ask directions several times. So we bought a bag, we bought a bunch of food to bring back. It was people soup.
It was a lot of
It
people
was
in there.
not enjoyable.
Well, people trying to escape the heat. It was
Yeah.
very air conditioned.
It was American level of air conditioning, which on a day like that, that's why we went there. But so did everyone else, and it was not enjoyable people-wise.
Air conditioning was my working blood off. Yeah, then from there we went. And
We also got a croissant. That's what Phil was referring to earlier
yeah.
in the vlog.
There's a whole wall of fresh baked goods, and the person had just come out with the tray of croissants and was loading them in there, and I was trying to be good, but when they bring out a fresh tray of croissants, I'm like, that's gonna come with me. And so I grabbed one. By the time we ate it, it was not fresh.
After Harrods, we went back on the tube, back to Southwark.
Yeah, we were like, oh, we have 2 hours before the show starts. We have enough time to get back here. The GPS said you get back by 6:30.
5:30.
5:30, and so I was like, okay, the show's at 7, so if we leave at...
Oh, okay. So on our walk over the Millennium Bridge, the Rush tickets were released for the West End shows. There was availability for My Fair Lady on Rush. All of the Rush tickets are done through Today Tix. So we looked at the Rush tickets, and they had availability for My Fair Lady. I haven't ever seen My Fair Lady. I know the music. And
I didn't even know the music. I had no idea going into it. I mean, she briefly explained that it's Taming the Shrew.
when that was even wrong because it was Pygmalion.
How do you know you're...
I read it online.
But it's a common trope of take pretty, or not pretty girl, turn her pretty. But this is more lady, so...
So, we were supposed to get here at 5:30. We had to let several trains go by because there were just too many people in them.
Yeah,
I didn't feel
I took a
comfortable getting
photo
on them.
of just the whole... You couldn't fit any more people on the platform. It was just completely stuffed. And the train that came up was just already stuffed, and it was...
People were forcing themselves on like it was the Japanese subways where there's like the people pushers with the white gloves. It was that bad. And it was also super hot because it was still over 100. So we waited and let a few trains go by.
Was that the 2-train one we let go by? Or was it the 1 train?
That was the 2 train.
Yeah, because most of the platform got on. Then the next one, it was still stuffed. And almost the whole rest of the platform got on. And then we got on the next one, which was pretty decent. And if we hadn't waited, we wouldn't have got to ride with the dog.
Yeah, there was a dog on there and it was very sweet. It was a husky named Husky. We felt very bad for it, but we protected it. And it was really fun seeing everyone just, because everyone was miserable on that too. But as soon as someone saw a dog, they were like...
Their day was so much better.
Dogs help everything.
And he was like leaning on me and stuff. It was so hot, and he was so...
I felt bad for him.
Yeah, he was very like... He was shaking. I think there was so many people and how hot it was.
Yeah.
Say that we let that one go too. That one was so full that we waited a whole other train for that one. So with the 3 trains that we passed up, by the time we got to the hotel, it was like almost 6 o'clock. And so we only had a few minutes.
Because we were catching the boat at 6:20. So we stayed here for, I want to say like 10, 11 minutes. Walked down there.
Just enough to use the restroom and...
Yeah, just kind of try and survive a little bit. Dropped off the cameras. So we walked back to Blackfriars Pier, where the boat was supposed to be there at 6:20. We got there at 6:15. And we waited. And we waited. And I asked the station attendant, and he said, oh, this next boat isn't even going to go to Embankment. You need to wait on the side. So the time's going, and 6:20 boat never shows up.
Boat comes right after 6:20, but it's going the other direction.
Yeah. So then 6:35 shows up, and because the next boat was 6:38, which would have sucked, but we would have made it on time, it lets off its passengers and leaves. Single person doesn't even board.
They only let 2 people off too.
So just kept cruising along. So I flip out, and
yeah, it's because they got stacked on top of each other. The one got stuck by a boat, so they were right next to each other. So like, oh, we'll have this one skip the pier, and the next one can just
grab everyone.
But the next one was like 10 minutes away still.
And at this point, it's 6:40. Our show starts at 7.
And so Haley's like, screw this, we're getting an Uber. And her phone just
wouldn't connect. So like, we're running up to Blackfriars because we're down at the pier. So we run up 2 flights of stairs.
Technically, it's a mile. So if we could have ran a mile in 20 minutes, but we were
no,
not.
It wasn't that. It was a 26-minute walk.
Oh. When I saw that, it said a mile. But we had been walking for a while, so that makes sense.
6 minutes. So I'm trying to get an Uber, and it's not working, and I'm yelling.
So Haley's yelling at me, keep going. So I just like, okay.
We're walking in the right direction of the theater.
And we're trying to hail cabs.
With the full realization.
Cabs are just no cabs.
All the cabs are full.
Well, there was no cabs at first, so we went down the side street where there was tons of cabs coming by. Their only car was going by was cabs because they were using it as a cut through, but they were all full.
Yeah.
And so we, at that time, before we even went down the side street, I had requested an Uber, and it finally connected. And we were like probably 3-4 or like a quarter mile, a third of a mile away at that point, and Uber doesn't let you redo your spot once, but not that far. So I redid it, and then I had to text the guy and say, hey, because Haley's keep going, right? And so we ended up walking close. Yeah, Haley just keeps going, and so the guy had a passenger drop off, and we're actually walking towards where the guy was dropping his passenger off. So he dropped him off, and then turned on the street, and they were like right there. So we were able to have him pull over.
So we threw ourselves into the cab. And then he drove, and it was so hot, and then I tried to roll down the window because it was so hot, and then he's like, no, air conditioning. I'm like, no, it's not on.
Yeah, the air conditioning, it was like very weak.
But he drove, and we eventually made it to the theater.
Yeah.
People Soup driving through.
Yeah, we got there.
We arrived there at 7:05. We've never been late to a show before.
And so we're like, okay, we get it. We're late.
Yeah, we understand that late seating's a thing. We're grateful
we're just going to have to miss it. 5 minutes isn't terrible. Usually the first late seating is like, some places don't do an intermission. And so we're like...
Yeah, so we're fine. So we walk up there and we're like, oh no! And they're like, okay. And they see that we're like drenched in sweat.
And they're like, oh my god, they probably ran.
The head usher's like, here, have some water. And we're like, thank you.
Yeah, we had to really run it until we got the car. And we're only in the car for 10 minutes maybe.
So we downed a couple of waters, and as we're drinking the water, we're not the only late arrivals. There's also this group of 4 women.
Wasn't the 4 women arrived before us? There was there was 2 people that had arrived before us, but they had asked them to go to the other side, so they disappeared.
Yeah, because they weren't in the stalls. They had you waiting near where your seats would be.
And the 4 ladies were late, like later than us.
No, they were there before us. We're drinking the water, and we're relaxing. And the 4 women that were there before us, also for late entry, start hemming and hawing to the head usher, saying, can we just go in? Why can't we just go in? And he's explaining that they have late seating for a reason, and so you don't distract from the other people's experiences, and it's also for the actors. And they're just like... So as he walks by, I tell him, you're doing a great job.
He goes...
He went over to where they were selling things.
Yeah,
and he was talking to the other ushers.
Yeah, he had like literally turned his back for a moment, and they tried to get in.
They didn't just try to get in. They pulled the curtain to the side. One was standing inside the theater, and the other one was poking her head through.
Watching, yeah.
And the guy turns around, and he's like, oh!
And he like just...
And he doesn't physically yank them out of the theater, but I think if there weren't any repercussions, he would have.
Yeah.
But he like gets them out, and the ladies are like, "Well, we just wanted to watch the show," and he's like, "No, you can't do that. That's," and he's explaining, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's a respect thing." And Phil's just Phil hates confrontation, and I am very much a you don't disrespect people sort of person.
Okay, so confrontation is a different thing between me and you. Confrontation for me is when that guy was yelling at all the single females, my confrontation would have been to say something, but he walked away. If he had stayed around, there would have been a conversation. However, for her, she likes to do these little snippets of like, well, you know, if you sit in that grass you're not supposed to sit in, you'll get rashes.
I tend to be a little passive-aggressive to
very passive-aggressive, and I'm more...
I was not passive-aggressive with those ladies.
Oh, no, she was... But it was the same kind of tone and stuff of like, Haley's gonna, and I'm like, I just.
Well, the ladies were all talking to each other and to the usher, and they were being really disrespectful.
I'm like, I'm gonna go get some water.
So Phil's hiding behind the water thing.
I'm like, I'm gonna get some water.
I explained to them that it's really distracting. I've never been on this stage, but I've been on other stages, and when you have the light flickering in the back...
She said, as a performer, that's the one line I definitely heard. You're like, as a performer, it's very appreciated that with the light levels.
That people take it seriously, and it's a respect thing. Yeah. And then they were still hemming and hawing, and I was like, well, the show's still going to be great. We're just going to wait a little bit. And I was more eloquent at the time because I was angry and sassy.
Yeah, she was so sassy. She was like...
And I would thank the usher for his hard work, and I was saying...
She, like, very... she made the ushers feel seen, I think. Like, she was like, you're, like, great. The actors appreciate everything you're doing. You know, you're awesome. You know. Like,
I wasn't quite that effusive.
Yeah, she was pretty close, but...
I don't think I did that much. But mainly I was just trying to make the women feel bad for poking their heads in. And I did end it by saying, and it's going to be a great show regardless of when we get in. And so we get to the point where they're like, okay, late seating's going to happen now. So they guide the 4 women in. And the usher's like...
He closes the door in front of us, right?
Yeah, he's like, oh, hold on for a second. I'm like, okay. And I was like, oh, he's probably going to guide those 4 so that it's a little less distracting.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of does a little finger movement. And instead, so there were 2 doors next to each other. The main door into the theater, and then a little door that I hadn't noticed.
It was, well, I had, because there's like several doors. The whole wall is full of doors. It's private, 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 private. And then there's 2 actual doors. And so it was just the one on the left that said private. And so I noticed the door, but I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was like a broom closet or something.
So he lets the curtain slide back.
Yeah, he opens the private door and
he opens
like
the door,
motions us in.
And he goes like, would you like to sit there? And it's this completely private box.
It's a private box. It's got a wonderful view of the stage.
It has 5 total seats, but they're chairs, so you could move them around. Technically, our seats that we had purchased were 8th row, which would have been significantly closer to the stage, but it was so comfortable to be able to just stretch out and stretch your legs out.
I mean, 8th row on the very side versus this, which was up higher, so you can see what's going on the stage.
I mean,
there's a difference of like being there and like
experiencing it.
No, right there where you see like when they dictate and like
and their facial expressions. Yeah. But honestly,
where we were, it was great, and we weren't next to other sweaty people. We weren't like, you know.
And as larger people in London theaters, it is not incredibly comfortable in most theaters that we've been to.
And this was like, yeah, we're sweaty.
Over there?
Yeah, we're sweaty,
and the theater was gorgeous too.
Yeah.
So Phil was a little sleepy through the first act because we didn't get our traditional nap.
By the time we got back, it was.
And we had been running. It was a rough first act. Though I knew most of the songs. We did miss the first musical number, but
I don't even know what that was about. So
I don't either. So no big loss. The one fun thing about it is I'm a Downton Abbey fan, and Bertie, Edith's husband, was playing Henry Higgins in it. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah. So intermission comes, and Haley's like, "We gotta leave. This box is not ours. We gotta go.
We gotta go to our seats.
Leave our lovely box.
Lovely little box was my phrase.
Like, okay, so we poke our heads out,
and then I see the usher, and I'm like,
yeah, because he's like managing people right there, and he's just like.
So I walked over to him, and I'm like, "Thank you, that's incredible. Can we please keep our lovely little box?" And he kind of does a half smile, and he's like, "Yes, you can keep your lovely little box." So we went over, got some drinks.
Yeah, we got a bunch of ice.
We got
the drinks woke me up.
2 sodas each. We took it back in a box. You have that nice little bar area where you can put your stuff. And then we just enjoyed the second act in our wonderful box.
I was awake because I got up and I got the blood going and drinking. The second act is so much better than the first one.
The first act has most of the big songs.
It's not the second act. It's like the third act, isn't it? Technically?
No. Second act.
I always thought it was just. Anyways, yeah, it was more emotionally charged. There's some intense scenes.
So, like I said, I've never seen My Fair Lady before. I only know the music, and Phil had no idea going in.
I never.
And so,
at the
very end, spoiler alert, although they said that it's different in this play than it is in the movie. They're talking at the very end, and she just walks away, and she walks through the theater to leave, and then that's it. There's no resolution. There's no happy ending.
She just leaves them. She says, "You're an ass, and I'm gone."
I mean, she didn't say that, but that's what it is in a nutshell. And I'm so used to the American happy ending that it was shocking.
Yeah, it was a very big. It was so much more emotionally charged than I thought it was going to be. Some of those scenes were like intense.
She's a good actress.
It was intense, like what she was like. Just how intense those scenes were, like with how she was like, you know, what is to become of me, kind of thing. Was an intense scene, just because, you know,
the whole concept of he's only seeing her as a 6-month experiment. Though you can tell that he does have feelings for her, but I also think he's gay.
Yeah.
So I think they leaned into that.
They had this whole thing about him and the military guy who he makes the bet with.
They're both gay, but they're both closeted.
They're confirmed. No, they say, "Oh, we're both confirmed bachelors," and that was them saying it to each other.
Though, fun fact, the guy who played Henry Higgins is gay. Which I only found out at the premiere of the last Downton Abbey movie, so.
Yeah, so they really played that. So I was like, oh, he's not interested in her as a partner, but more of a friend maybe, or like a close, because they have this shared experience and he doesn't trust women.
Well, shared experience and shared respect.
Yeah.
So it would make sense with the confirmed bachelorhood. It was interesting though, like I said, I didn't know what to expect going in, and we got those rush seats. They were £25 each, and then we ended up in the box, which was incredible.
Yeah, and the one I really enjoyed the character of the stepfather. He brought a lot of
father.
I thought he said he was stepfather.
No, father and stepmother.
Oh, okay, but he brought a lot of energy to the role, and
he was played by an understudy, which we found out later.
We didn't know, but he was I don't know. He was very. I thought it was very fun. Like that.
You would like Thénardier. Thénardier? The innkeeper from Les Mis. You would really enjoy that character, I think. Thénardier, I think.
Well, I just enjoyed his vaudeville, and he was just. I just loved his character resolution of him becoming rich and hating it.
Middle class.
Yeah. And.
So that was fun. So after the play, we hopped onto the bus. And guess who was on our bus? So one of the actors from the show was at the bus stop. And we didn't want to be like that weird person. So I was like, let's take a sneaky selfie. But then I was too slow.
Yeah, and the bus came and like, okay, so we get upstairs and we're like, okay, I think it's like, oh, we missed a selfie. And then like a couple seconds later, they walked upstairs and we're like... And
then they sit like directly behind Phil.
Yeah.
And so we got our sneaky selfie.
And I think it was two actors. I think one was a stagehand or someone in the production.
It looked like it was another production person, but it was the actor and someone else talking about the show. And they proceeded to spend that entire 16-minute bus ride shit-talking and doing
so much gossip.
Hot theater gossip.
Oh, man.
And it was amazing.
That was some...
And they were talking about how the lead actor, Bertie from Downton Abbey, they don't know why they cast him because he's not a real celebrity, and why
he's not bringing people into the seats.
No one's coming to the theater to see him. But the girl who plays Eliza does a great job. She's pretty young, but
she's powerful.
Yeah, she's getting better and better every single night, and they've had a lot of call-outs due to being sick, and they've had to cover multiple roles over the past few nights. And they don't understand why there aren't any consequences for the people calling out.
Yeah, and they even said, oh, why don't I just play this big role in the production?
And the person who actually played that role said, why don't you learn your own role first? Yeah, hot theater goss. So we enjoyed it, and I legitimately turned to Phil and I was like, maybe we should just miss our stop because I'm enjoying this so much.
Yeah, I was like, how long do we want to ride the bus for?
It was so good. But we got off at our normal stop, and I turned to them, and I said, great show tonight, and they were like, oh, cheers. I don't think they realized that they were recognized, but It was fun.
I thought we were a
was
little more
super
quiet
fun.
after that.
Probably. But I enjoyed that theater gossip because
It
there's
was
nothing
hot.
better than catty theater people.
Oh, it was good stuff.
So that was fun. We walked back from Waterloo, as we have every single night that we've been here. And we were a little bit hungry because it was about 11 o'clock.
And we had eaten.
And the last time we had eaten was at 2 p.m. So we went back to our same kebab place.
The Capital Kebab or whatever.
Capital Kebab. And this time I got one kebab for us to share, but I got a
It was
chicken
enough food. It
with
was way more
halloumi in
food.
it, which was super good.
Yeah, that one was. And they get these. I think they gave you as much or more halloumi than they gave
The actual halloumi roll that we had gotten previously. But it was delicious. I got the sauce inside this time.
Oh, they spiced it this time.
Yeah, I think if we end up going back, which we probably will because we have more shows, I'll do, say, like a half a scoop of the chili and then the normal, the garlic. But that was great. And we came back to the room.
Or we can just do the chili separate and the garlic in it.
Yeah. And then we came back to the room and proceeded to fall asleep before we charged any of our devices.
Yeah, we literally put everything out of our pockets, got ready for bed, or like got, de-sweated.
We didn't even get ready for bed or de-sweated.
No,
We took off our sweaty clothes and laid on the bed, and you said, "Oh, don't worry, I'm gonna take care of your feet because my feet are awful. I've got such a cankle situation with swollen feet going on."
Yeah, she's got.
And he was like, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." And the next thing I know, he was snoring.
And then you were out.
I was out and up and out and up and out.
Yeah,
and up.
she was up on there all day.
It's really hot, and it's also really humid. So,
Yeah, so
it's
yeah.
a thing. So that was our day yesterday. So let's go have some fun today.
Yeah.